Welcome back to another installment of Nightmares and News. I'm your host, Bumps in the Night, and here's the news. EHP Labs unveils Ghostbusters energy drinks and Slimer in proton plasma flavors. The energy drink game has absolutely exploded in recent years, with various companies competing for shelf space and eyeballs. As a result, those companies are getting more and more attention-grabbing with their artwork and flavors. With many of the drinks on the market today enlisting the help of established stars and pop culture properties to move product. On that note, EHP Labs, a global sports nutrition brand and home of OxyShred, has announced the unveiling of its first ever collaboration with Sony Pictures Consumer Products to debut a line of EHP Labs products inspired by the iconic and legendary Ghostbusters franchise. The collaboration will bring 3 new flavors inspired by the Ghostbusters universe. Among these will be a tropical lime flavor named after well-known character Slimer and a tangerine flavor named after proton plasma, aimed to capture the essence of the proton beams used to fight and capture ghosts. Do you plan on trying any of these drinks? We might pick up the proton plasma flavor. It sounds a little better than Slimer. The Last of Us Season 2 heads into production early next year. HBO's video game-based horror series The Last of Us kicked off with massive success this last year. When can you expect Season 2 to bring Ellie and Joel back to HBO? HBO's Casey Bloys announced during an event last week The Last of Us Season 2 is looking to begin production in early 2024, targeting premiere sometime in 2025. Of course, everything is a bit up in the air at the moment due to the recently resolved WGA strike and the ongoing SAG strike, but this is HBO's current plan at least. Season 2 is expected to adapt the second video game. Stay tuned for more information on this. If you've been sleeping on this series, I highly recommend you check it out. You're definitely going to cry. Moving on, let's take a trip down to a small town named Derry. Welcome to Derry. The Pennywise TV series has been pushed back to 2025. Originally set to arrive for Halloween 2024, HBO has announced this week that their Max series Welcome to Derry will now likely be unleashed sometime in 2025 instead. We had Welcome to Derry scheduled for Halloween 24, but it will likely be pushing into 25, HBO's CEO Casey Bloys officially announced last week. The series will be a prequel to the 2 Stephen King It-based movies that recently debuted in the last decade. The series will begin in the 1960s and the time leading up to the events of It, Part 1, the 2017 film based on the Stephen King horror novel. The story is also said to include the origin story of Pennywise the Clown. Are you looking forward to this series? We know we are. We'll bring you more updates as this story develops. It's back to the Upside Down because as the Stranger Things chapter returns to Dead by Daylight. 2 years after the Stranger Things chapter from Dead by Daylight was sadly removed, coming at the conclusion of this year's Haunted by Daylight event, Behavior Interactive has announced that it's back. In celebration of Stranger Things Day, players can explore once again the Upside Down and get the full Stranger Things experience with the Demogorgon, Nancy Wheeler, and Steve Harrington. We're thrilled to renew this collaboration with Netflix to bring back the Stranger Things chapter, including the underground complex map from Hawkins National Laboratory, and the iconic survivor duo composed of Nancy Wheeler, a tough aspiring journalist, and Steve Harrington, a former high school jock with a knack for finding trouble. We hope players who didn't get to experience Stranger Things and Dead by Daylight will take advantage of this gaming experience today. In addition to all of the previously released Stranger Things cosmetics are coming back to Dead by Daylight, the in-game store, including the Jonathan Byers outfit and the Scoops Ahoy outfit for Steve. If you haven't played this chapter of Dead by Daylight, we highly recommend it. Army of the Dead Las Vegas? Animated series no longer happening at Netflix. Las Vegas is the city of sin, and with sin sometimes comes death. And unfortunately in this case, Army of the Dead Las Vegas animated series will no longer be heading to Netflix. Zack Snyder's 2021 zombie movie, Army of the Dead, was supposed to spawn an animated series titled Army of the Dead Las Vegas. You may recall it's been a while since we've heard a peep about the project. In the new interview with Total Film that went up recently, Snyder suggests that the planned animation series is no longer moving forward at Netflix. Additionally, Snyder tells that Army of the Dead Las Vegas would reveal that the franchise takes place in the same universe as Snyder's upcoming Rebel Moon. Army of the Dead has a pretty vast mythology that never made it into the movie, Snyder explains. There's actually a character from Rebel Moon in the Army of the Dead animated series that we never did. Sounds like Netflix and Snyder got pretty far into development of Army of the Dead Las Vegas before the plug was pulled. Snyder then explains, "We did all the scripts and the animatics and the voices are recorded. Even in its crazy animatic form, you could watch the whole run." Army of the Dead spawned the Netflix spin-off movie Army of Thieves in 2021, and the plan was to follow both projects with Las Vegas and the live-action sequel Planet of the Dead. Has Planet of the Dead also been canceled? Are Netflix and Snyder shuffling away from the Army of the Dead universe and instead focusing on the Rebel Moon universe perhaps? Only time will tell. Art the Clown returns this Christmas. Terrifier 3 will slay Christmas in theaters on October 25th, 2024. Fresh off the recent theatrical re-release of Terrifier 2, which featured a first look at a sneak peek upcoming Terrifier 3 from returning director Damien Leone, Signverse and Bloody Disgusting are excited to announce The hotly anticipated Christmas slasher sequel Terrifier 3 slices into theaters across North America on October 25th, 2024. In the third installment of Damien Leone's breakout horror film, Art the Clown is set to unleash chaos on an unsuspecting residents of Miles County as they peacefully drift off to sleep on Christmas Eve. Terrifier 3 arrives in theaters just over 2 years after Terrifier 2, which released theatrically October 6, 2022. The ultra-gory, 138-minute, unrated film ravaged theaters during the highly publicized theatrical run, pulling in over $11 million in domestic box office. During that time, Terrifier 2 found its way into mainstream press, with Variety detailing how Terrifier 2 became this year's unlikeliest box office success, and how the film was inspiring horror fiends and skeptics to go to their local cinemas in droves to assess the hype for themselves. Terrifier 2 became certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes, and the movie even found its way onto Stephen King's radar, with the It author tweeting that Terrifier 2 is grossing you out old school. Are you excited for Terrifier 3? Have you watched any of the films in this series? Personally, we're not super excited, but we understand why people do enjoy it. It's really gory. That's all the news I have for you today, my lovely fiends. Stay spooky, keep those claws sharp, and consume more souls of the living. I've been your host, Bumps in the Night, and remember, horror is a beautiful thing. And if you guys didn't know, we recently dove back into the podcast game with reviewing movies. We recently reviewed Troll, a 1986 horror film that was something. We're in the process of working on the Troll 2 review, but for now, you can watch more Nightmares and News. For now, you can watch the first review of Troll on our YouTube channel.